Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Best Practices Storage as a Service presentation. I'm here with Komprise Field CTO, Benjamin Henry. And in our last session, we talked about the storage as a service model, how to make it more affordable. Today, we're going to focus on storage as a service analytics and reporting. So what are we going to dive into here today, Ben?
Yeah, Darren, we're going to do a recap of something I talked about before, which is the cost model. We're going to talk about the additional reports, such as Showback and Orphan Data. And then we're going to dive into a little bit more about deep analytics, which will lead into our third video. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen out here, and we'll talk about the cost model. So again, the cost model was introduced in our first video, but it's worth talking about more because this is what drives the fiscal responsibility about the movement to storage as a service. How can I make it affordable? How do I know I'm doing the right thing for my organization? Let's set the cost model for your storage as a service environment that you're planning on migrating to. So what I'm going to start with is creating a new plan here. I'm going to call this Plan 2. Plan 2 and create. And here I'm going to call this all shares, because I'm going to add all of my shares at this site that are targeting this storage as a service environment. I'm going to do that, add shares, and I'm going to choose everything at the Atlanta site and hit save. All right. I'm going to cost model it in two different ways. I want to see what it's going to cost, one, to host it there, but two, if I start evaluating my cold data. So I'm going to model this as if I'm going to tier my cold data. And my cold data, I'm going to say any data that hasn't been accessed in 1 year or more. And we can see the data donut changed a little bit. It introduced those purple lines. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and say done editing right now and come over and adjust the cost model. So the cost model that was here by default is the out-of-the-box default. But I want to make this more realistic towards a storage as a service environment that's based on a premium tier of storage. So I'm going to put in $4,700 per terabyte per year for a premium tier of storage. I'm going to make sure that my backup hardware and my software are set to 0 because they are included in that premium tier. And then I can continue to configure other things, how many backup copies are kept, the cloud storage environment, if I were tiering my data, the Komprise cost, and if there were any egress costs as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and continue here. So now my numbers will be adjusted to reflect how much it's going to cost to host all of this data, so the 1.37 petabytes in that premium tier of storage. If I were to then also consider tiering that data, I could reduce that by half. So I could take that 1.37 petabytes and the cost associated with it, slice that in half, and then move just that hot data to that premium tier of storage. More on that later. So that's the cost model, and that's how I can set it up for different tiers of storage as a service. But to continue to be fiscally responsible, I'm going to jump back over to our reports tab and talk about a few others we didn't talk about last week, which is the orphan data and the duplicates. So what does that mean? Well, we'll start with the orphan data. Orphan data is most commonly referred to as data that no longer has a SID that can be resolved. Well, again, what does that mean? Well, typically when users leave organizations, their accounts are deleted. And when their accounts are deleted, that means data they owned is no longer resolvable to an owner. So let's find that, because a lot of times you may not need that data to moving forward, or what you can do is you can actually place that data in a colder tier of storage. So we're going to run this report, and in here I've already selected all the shares at my Atlanta site. And I'm going to take a look at this based on my cost model. That orphan data is costing me over over $750,000 over 3 years to host that. So again, this like the other reports we talked about. This is more of a management or leadership report. It's in a PDF style. It's easy to email. It's easy to talk to. It's very colorful, and all the statistics are here for you to present to the leadership to affect change on this data. All right, so that's one way that I can generate the orphan data. And again, it's the management leadership summary, but I want to know more about it. Show me that data. Perfect. That's where deep analytics comes in. I'm going to come into deep analytics. I'm going to go to my filters. I'm going to go to owner, and I'm going to set this to an undefined owner, and I'm going to say run. And I've already got that pre-built here. So I, again, can see the 2.96, call it 3 million files. 3 million files at this one site have unresolved SIDs because users are no longer here. So I can see the heat map associated with that. And I can also see the shares that are associated with that orphan data. But I want to know more. Perfect. Let's click on the details list of files. I now get to see the file names, the age, and if it did resolve at one point in time, I would have seen that because we stored that in our metadata database before that user was removed from the environment. All right, and then over here, I can download this for even more information. I can actually see the file paths to where all these files belong. All right, let's move on to the next report. I'm going to talk now about the potential duplicates. Okay, so again, what does that mean? Well, I get to customize what that means in my environment. I can do a match on a file name and extension, match just the file extension, match the created time, match the last modified time. So I can kind of craft how precise I want this duplicates report to look. All right, so I've go ahead and I've selected my Atlanta site and I've pre-built that report. So here, based on duplicates, it's costing me $1.8 million per year to carry around potential duplicate information. Again, leadership style report, go through here, and you can go ahead and have that conversation and say, maybe we should evaluate this a little bit more and make some decisions based on these duplicates. All right, so now we're going to bring this full circle and talk about the analytics again and kind of an intro for our third video that we're going to have. I want to know more about that heat map because I don't want to move all of this data to that premium tier of storage. So I've gone ahead here. I'm looking at my internal Isilon system zone. I've got my marketing share. I've got Darren on with me here right now. I want to talk to him about his marketing share. You're spending way too much money. You got way too much data in here. What can we do? And Darren comes back to me and says, you know what, Ben, that's great, but we have to be more systematic about this. And I can't take a broad approach. I need more precision. Perfect. So we're going to be in here in data stores. And I'm going to drill into this to the data explorer and say, all right, Darren, here's a list of all your folders, your top level folders, and here's your heat map associated with that. So Darren, your business development, it's got 47, almost 48% of its data is considered cold, hasn't been accessed in a year or more. The customer service one, 53%. The design area, 58%. So Darren, you've got a lot of cold data here that we need to address. So you know what, Darren? That's a great segue. I'm going to turn it back over to you because that's for our next session.
Fantastic. So next time we're going to dive into deep analytics and talk about some different query and tagging techniques. But this is a great overview, Ben. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to our next session.